check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Check. Hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Illfoominiati. I am your host, Ryan Fu, and today I'm joined by a lovely human being, Miles Holland.
It's nice to be back on the show, and I gotta say, Ryan, you look a little different today.
Really?
Yeah, it's, I think the hair maybe. You get a haircut?
No, I think I had a dream last night. And it's interesting. I've been kind of getting that a lot today, that I look a little bit different. I think in my dream, maybe I was transformed. I do kind of feel a little bit like my spirit is somewhere else today. I don't know, maybe like in like Arizona or something.
Yeah, well, you look bigger. Like your energy overall is like just stronger.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's good to be on the show.
Yeah. So, it's a beautiful day in Denver. What have you been up to? Tell us a little bit. I know you usually are behind the scenes, but today you're, with me.
Yeah. I was glad I was on the Doodlecast before, I think like a couple weeks ago. And then now I'm getting to be more and more on the talk shows. The cameras in my face is kind of nerve-wracking because I smile all the time. I don't. But what have I been doing recently? School, midterms, did well on my midterms.
What are you studying?
Recording arts.
Recording arts?
Yeah,
okay.
But I got three semesters left. With us just working, trying to dream more. Yeah, I took a minute to stop using cannabis to focus on my dreams and remember those. Yeah,
that is interesting how that correlates sometimes.
Yeah. And then I've been started dreaming some more. Had some pretty interesting dreams. Started lucid dreaming a bit, and then just working and then trying to be a better person every day.
Well, that's all we can hope for, right? And try to be our best selves.
Yeah.
So what is, I guess, your ultimate dream, though?
My ultimate dream, I have a vision that I keep working towards. It's like I want to create like an artist resort or an artist workshop, and it was where people can come out and work and create there, but it's also functions as a music studio that I would work my craft in, and just have people stay here in Colorado or wherever I choose to open it, and then just have it be like a place where people can take a second. I want to have like a mass community garden and have people who live and work there just to grow food and it's gonna be like a big house. Yeah.
Amazing. There have been a few artists I've talked to who've had similar dreams as well, so maybe
that's my
connect
idea.
You.
It's an original thought.
No, I mean the more the merrier is what I'm saying. It
definitely
takes teamwork always, so I could connect you to some of those people.
Yeah, let me get those names. That'd be sweet.
Well, I mean, I know Conscious Creatives, they talked about, doing something similar.
Yeah, Aki was just on the show today, too. She was doing in the Doodlecast.
She was, yeah. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'm excited to listen to that later.
It was a good show.
Sure.
Leica doesn't like the artwork, which is kind of a bummer, because she's our in-house critic.
Oh yeah, Leica is our studio dog. For those listening who are like, who's Leica?
She tells us when everything is real or not.
Dogs, yes. So we have some interesting topics today. One is I wanted to talk about this idea of identity. Because it's something that comes up for me a lot, and as I'm experiencing today, this sense of feeling not my normal self. I want to kind of just dive into that. What do you think it means to have an identity?
What does it mean to have an identity?
I know that's a pretty big question.
Yeah, and I mean, just because I feel that identities are something that are continuously changing. So maybe a understanding of who you believe you are in a particular moment.
I like that.
You know, I don't know if I would even say that I'm the same person that I was maybe couple years ago, easily. Not even the same person I was a month ago. And it's I believe a change that we make almost like every second of our day. You know, with every second you have the ability to reconstruct yourself. So it's but you know, knowing who you are while you're being reconstructed, because someone will ask you at a point like, who are you, right? Like, who are you right now? And then right now you get a chance to like maybe come up with and describe your narrative.
Okay, so my next question is, who are you right now?
Shit. Let's see. Who am I? I'm a happy young brother who's glad to be on the show.
Okay.
That was a cheesy answer. That was terrible.
It's not terrible. I mean, hey, there's no right or wrong answers here.
You're right.
But yeah, it's interesting to see how people define themselves, whether they, start with physical appearances or their occupation or status or their dream of who they will be, want to be. So it's interesting to see how people choose to define themselves. And yeah, there's no right or wrong answers. So I'm not sure even how I would answer that question. Who am I, Ryan Fu? I am maybe possibly a human being. I don't even know. Just, atoms.
Yeah.
And just doing my best.
Doing
just
a great
living
job.
life. But I guess also with this, because identity, it can get to be a really complex conversation when a lot of people, spiritual people especially, bring in the concept of that we are all one, and that, many people believe that we are truly all like one kind of spirit having, billions of different experiences. So it's kind of like, where is that line of I am me versus I am, this
us.
I'm us. Yeah. I am this infinite power. So, and for me, that's been, it's been a more fun conversation lately, I would say, is because once you do accept that, like, I am this great one spirit, but also I get to have this experience that is truly my own, that no one else will ever have, then it starts to get fun for me, because I get to kind of create this this thing called life,
right?
But sometimes it is hard, because it's like, okay, if I'm everyone, am I also the person who is doing the mass shooting? Am I also the person starving on the streets? Like, am I also a person who got abused? Where does that line get drawn?
Right. And damn, that's a real question. That's a serious question.
I'm like, I don't know if there's an answer to it. It's
True,
just a
fair
question.
Enough. Fair enough.
But if you have thoughts about that, please do.
I think for a lot of what we've been using to describe as ourselves, or what we limit, like, you know, we with our own physical senses, and the fact that we do, like, as individuals, wake up as an individual. But I feel like when we start incorporating this idea of identity, it's for us to connect with people. You know, we use or we're defining ourselves in that moment in order to make a connection or a relation with somebody. And you know, just like as your identity changes, maybe those connections with those people will change as well, because you're constantly growing and shifting into who you want to be, and maybe the best version of spirit as possible, right? So when we recognize that we're us, right, it seems strange to have an identity, but an identity helps, I feel, spirit recognize maybe growth patterns that it is unaccustomed to, or a path that it hadn't seen before. So
I really like that. I noticed that when I decided to start, you know, creating more art or bring community together, I noticed that identity actually helped. Whereas a lot of, you know, sometimes people are like, get rid of your ego and identity, but some identity actually helps you curate your own life in art, because if you have a blank piece of paper in front of you and you don't really know what to put on the paper, you'll just, you know, stare at the paper until you go insane. But having an identity, you're like, okay, I know that I like these kind of colors. I know that I make these kind of lines. And so you kind of get to create. Without an identity, it's very hard to create, for me at least. But also not getting too attached to the identity of like, oh, I can only use these colors because, you know, that's what I use. Like, who am I, you know?
Right.
But so it's interesting how identity can actually be very helpful and useful if, you know, using well, but also it can be pretty destructive to you as well.
You can disassociate so much and think that it's only you who sees something a certain way. And it's a very lonely place to be when you think that you're the only one. You know, and most of the times it's never true, right? There's nothing new under the sun. So the thought you may have had may have different context, but someone's been in that situation that you're in, and then being open and willing to have those experiences is what allows for that identity to mold closer and closer to the unified spirit, I think.
And you wrote something down here for some of our ideas for topics, a question that I kind of want to like lead into, but does everybody change? And the notion of change to me, in terms of identity, that even the fact that people can change, to me implies that some way, like in some way, we're kind of acting. Because if you can, you know, it's like a strange thought to have that you can change who you are. That in a month or maybe tomorrow, you'll be a totally different person. And like what happened in those like moments in that time period to cause you to be a different person. And I think it's your mindset, right? Or, you know, like an experience you had, but your mind is what caused you to now change your perspective. And now you're like, this is what defines me versus what defined me yesterday. Right. So I've noticed that more like acting, it's a very huge part of life. Like, I do believe that all of life is a stage. Theater is, to me, one of the most useful skills, because we are all in some way acting, but it's acting is like the art of truthfulness. So you fully believe that, you know, like you are this thing. Like if I was like, I'm an elephant now, and I fully believed that I was, I guess in some sense I am. You know, so it's, if I believe that I'm a doctor and this is my, like, my thing in life now, I will become that. Or if I believe I'm a shitty person, I will become that. If I believe I'm a kind person, I will act that role. If I believe I'm a daughter, good daughter, bad daughter, like I will act that role. So I think that theater is just a really useful tool, and that if everyone, you know, was a great actor, you can become any role and really define your identity. So I think identity is really a lot more fluid.
I would agree. Yeah, definitely. I think that was a really good way of putting it, and incorporating the acting. I got a lot of acting friends who would agree with that statement, and yeah, it's just like you really believe what you are, truly what you believe you are, you know. And affirmations are incredibly important, and I never realized that as a younger age. So I'd beat myself up a lot, and then wonder why I would feel or think the way that I do, and it was because I was telling myself that I was that, you know. And
yeah, words are powerful.
Right. So here I am, a person who claims to love myself and wants to love other people, but when the smallest thing goes wrong, I'm over here cursing myself or mad at myself, you know, and not giving my own being, the person that I refer to all the time, or that identity in that moment, enough empathy. For some reason, I just keep like, damn, you shouldn't have done that. Or like, fuck, were you thinking? You're an idiot. Da da da. Stuff like that will shape you psychically, I believe. And when you say that like life is a stage, I think you're right. You know, like we all are co-experiencing our realities together. So in every given second, any other eyes looking at me will take from whatever I am or whatever I portray myself to be. And that could be a myriad of different things, but it will give them, you know, a glimpse into seeing more than just themselves. So it's important to, you know, love yourself, and then practice, or try to practice loving yourself.
And how are some ways you practice loving yourself?
Definitely listening to your body is maybe, I think, the first thing. Well, no. I think the first thing you have to do is look yourself in the mirror and say that you love yourself. Like, I love you, you know. Practice seeing your face, you know, or the face that you identify or claim to, and tell them that you love them, you know. Practice saying that, having those words carry that weight, you know, and do that for a moment. And then while you're doing that, I think the next, maybe not as important, but it just is, maybe not as equal to that, but really just as important, is listening to your body, you know. We got a lot of stuff out here that will make you think that you want to do something, like sugar. I want to have some sugary food or something that tastes like this, but, you know, really listening to your body, you know that you don't need that right now, you know, that maybe you do need a few more minutes to lay down in bed, or you do, or you should, or you do want to, like, run around, be active, feel your body stretch, you know, but like being in touch with your body, and then affirming at the same time to your spirit and being that you love it. And then just mentally practice forgiving yourself, you know. That was a big thing for me, was because I would always beat myself up and dwell on stuff. But the moment when I started practicing, like, saying, okay, yeah, this wasn't good, this wasn't the outcome that we wanted, but how do we deal with this? And then after you deal with it, it's just you or even if you can't even fully deal with it, right, completely yet, while you're going through it, just be like, we're gonna get through this, right? It's not the end of the world. You know, we will figure it out. You will live past this. You know, there will be another day. You know, and hopefully you're in the next day by making decisions that affirm to the person that you want to be.
Right. The decisions you make and the actions that follow are reflections of who you are.
Right. You manifest everything in your life.
Can't hide from yourself.
Exactly.
That has been a topic I've noticed in kind of the community lately, is accepting all parts of yourself and like loving all parts, because, you know, a lot of times, especially in this day and age, we like to show kind of just the positive things maybe, or, you know, like, and it's good to celebrate, of course, like the good things you're doing. You want to create a more, hopefully like a more positive life for yourself, but also realizing that there are times when, you know, you're going to be sad, or there might be this other aspect of self that isn't always positive or loving or kind. I like to call it the primal self. Some people have been calling it the demon self, but I feel like I don't.
Kind of a harsh word.
Yeah, I'm like I don't resonate with that as much. But I think the primal self for me fits more, because I mean, as human beings, we are still animals, and I feel like there is a part of us that is in survival mode, you know, sometimes. And like when you're in survival mode, you probably would trust less, you would, you know, be a little bit more selfish, but it's all for, you know, like for your best interest or your family or whatever, but you wouldn't be, I guess, as kind, like you
open to love.
Yeah, a lot of people picture their primal selves, you know, like drenched in blood and with blades and just like yeah, which I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with acknowledging that self is there. That self, it can really help you a lot of times, protect you from things that are, you know, out to get you. Like when animals are out in the wild, you know, they don't get to wake up and be like, la la la, I'm gonna
go
paint
hug this
today.
coyote.
Yeah, there's freaking lions in the bushes. They gotta make some moves, you know, like they aren't they can't, you know, go hug the lion all the time. Sometimes you gotta be in survival mode. So acknowledging that that's theirs, I think for me, well, that's what duality kind of was about for me, is, you know, acknowledging all senses of self and loving self no matter, you know, what, and appreciating the primal self. But, and you touched on another topic we wrote down about what is love and how do we picture it, and you're saying, you know, you're saying to acknowledge your body, and one, to look in the mirror, and to be kind to yourself and forgiving. So
I think forgiveness is huge. It's you have to give yourself time to decompress. You know, we go through all kinds of shit in our day-to-day lives, some of them big, some of them small, but you have to be able to decompress and be like, okay, this happened, I either liked it or I didn't. I'm okay with it being over because I'm here now, right? And you have to forgive yourself. You know, it's too easy to hold on to things from our past or stuff that we don't know, and prevent us from truly experiencing whatever it is that would ultimately help shape who we'd want to be. But you have to be able to be in a space where you're comfortable with yourself and willing to take those risks. And you can't do it if you second guess yourself and beat on yourself at every turn. So I think forgiveness is a huge part of love, because like none of us are perfect, and a lot of what I'm getting more and more of talking to people is we're all starting to openly admit that we don't have the answers. You know, for a long time, from what I've seen, and even just like old movies, old songs, all this stuff, is people people believe that they figured it out, you know, that we got this and this is how this works, and if you don't do this, then you're not doing life right, or you're not being successful. When it's really not that, you know. It's we have a collective of energy never dies, so we share onto that energy, you know. And what you got to do is learn how to do what is best for you, and that outcome where you are, your experiences are going to be different, you know, and so the outcome is going to be different. So therefore, you're not ever going to reach the same conclusion as somebody. No matter how close you try to mimic them, it's not going to be the same result. It is always going to be different. It may look close from people on the outside. They'd be like, oh yeah, you did it, right? You found whatever it was, but...
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's... nothing is the same for anyone, and recognizing that is a huge part in that, because then once you realize that everybody's different, then you take everybody for face value, you know. You start loving people and start building with them, and then those bonds can grow, you know. And then you find out, you know, some people are not for your best interest simply because they just want something different from you, different than you, and that's cool. Like, you know, more power to you, but you know, that's not what I resonate with. So maybe we need to split or diverge, or maybe we've seen to be enemies for so long, but we've come together for this common thing. Like it's beautiful. It's never ever one thing. It's always a collection of others, and just like the world, it's not just about you. It's about the collective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like with this question, like, what is love? Everybody probably has their own definition of what love is, and mine keeps changing. I definitely feel like, to me, it's like the balance of giving and receiving, and that it's so fluid that you can't really even tell which is which anymore. Like, you know, you're just so full of, you know, like, if I cook this meal for you, whatever, it's fulfilling me as, like, as much as it was to, like, make it, to, like, share it with someone.
Wow. That was really good.
But,
I really like that.
but also, I was watching one of my favorite movies, and one of the characters said that she's just like, remember, you know, once the wheels of love are set in motion, there is no rules or order, like, anymore. And I kind of, like, paused it for a second, because I was like, okay, wait, let me actually, like, really, you know, try to understand what she meant by that. And I kind of was thinking, like, yeah, like, why would love, this infinite, you know, all power, have any need for rules and order? Like, rules and order would just limit the infiniteness, which you can't limit something that is infinite. So it's truly, if you're vibrating in love, there are no, like, rules and order, such as, like, life. There are no really, like, rules and order. That's why we break rules all the time, you know? So it's kind of just like, I think all these rules and stuff are illusions, and I think, you know, if we were in a society that was fully about love and understanding, that things that do try to control and limit would kind of perish, because we would just kind of be like, like, you know, the government would just kind of, like, or it would have to evolve or change in a certain way, but the way that it operates now would not exist, because it's just like, we don't operate in that anymore. Like, it seems silly almost. So that's kind of where I'm at with love.
Dig it. I can dig that.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the future of humanity?
Okay. See, it's cool because people, either they have like a either or, like it's we can either do this, it's gonna work out really well, or if we don't do it, then we're gonna go completely like this.
A utopia or a dystopia.
All right, and then both of those are unattainable. There's never not gonna be a point where people aren't working together, and there's never gonna be a point where everything is solved. So for to have ideals like that is just a result of our dualistic mindset, you know. And the fact that there was an imbalance in it. But dualism is beautiful in the sense that it's whole, you know. It's just two parts of the same thing. So I don't, what I think the future of humanity is I think it is really going to be really more based off of love, you know, because I actively practice love every day, you know. And the people that I surround myself with are those who are actively practicing it as well. And I personally believe that we are all psychically linked, whether we're all consciousness or cognitive of it or not. We all have an effect on another person. So if I can cultivate, in which I am cultivating a group of people centered around this this truth that is love, then I feel like it's just going to reflect more and more, because more people are behaving in that way, and then more people will take after that, seeing that it's a fruitful way of behaving, and that you know, we don't always need to be in survival mode. Though survival mode can help us, you know, it doesn't need to be on all the time, right? We don't need to try to be in a sense of dominance all the time, or we don't even need to express. No, that's not true. I think like we need to express all the time. I think we.
But maybe just in the way.
Yeah, express, but like listen, I guess would be the alternative to that. Was like being able to know when it's the time to give your 2 cents, and then when it's time to truly receive it. And I really liked your example of defining love as like getting to the point of it being both sharing and giving, to the point where you don't really know what you're doing. Like that's probably like the best definition I have heard of love.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it resonates, because I think it's real like that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the future of humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm in a lot of different circles, but the people I've been surrounding myself with have more of an idea that we're moving into a lot more peaceful times, and that, like, I guess that this is like a new age. Like in the past few years, we entered a new like astrological age, which symbolizes kind of like starting over, or each age brings like a kind of new like lesson. And this age is, we just exited out of Pisces, so we entered into the age of Aquarius, which is supposed to bring a like conscious evolution that inspires 1,000 years of peace. So
I like that.
So supposedly there's a lot of, you know, galactic beings and beings that are here on Earth that are supporting a transition into 1,000 years of peace in order to elevate the like total vibration of the human race and planet Earth, so that we can join the higher dimensions and really explore and really fun things. We don't have to live in suffering anymore. And but I don't know.
I like that.
Who knows? I'm down for it.
Me too.
I think if we all, you know, just focused on science and love, we would be able to do some cool stuff. Like, who knows?
Cool.
We could fly. We might live longer. We might have some really bomb food.
Right.
So I'm down for that experience, and that's what I want to help cultivate.
I feel that. I want to play cards with Jesus and E.T.
Right.
That'd be sweet.
Right. I'm trying to just chill with Michael Jackson,
right?
to be honest.
That's
like,
cool.
I really admire him.
You got all the VHS tapes.
Yeah, I still have VHS tapes and a VHS player, and most of our VHS tapes are of Michael Jackson.
Go ahead.
So
encyclopedia generation.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier of how
we're the last kids to have looked stuff up in the encyclopedia. Look, and I was born in 97, right? I still remember opening the encyclopedia and getting it, and then I remember in 4th grade having to take a typing class.
Yeah, these kids nowadays.
They don't even know.
Books, what are those?
That's hilarious.
No, books are really important, and I hope that we get to, keep those around for sure. I've noticed even like with my own self, it's been harder to focus on reading. Like I used to be a very avid reader, but now it seems like my attention span is not.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
shorter and
what?
shorter.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is happening?
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of me, it feels like a good thing because our generation is like we want information faster, and maybe we can actually receive it faster, so we can use that time to do other things.
Right.
So I think it could be an advantage, but as well, I think it kind of takes the value away from like long-term mentality and actually like being dedicated and committed to finishing something and like following the whole journey and process through.
Yeah, before that, like that not immediate gratification, like working through something and then achieving something at the end, level of mastery and stuff.
But now people they like listen to a song for like 3 seconds and they're like, okay, got it. Like, or read the headlines of an article and they're like, got it.
I understand this.
Yeah, and it's like,
there's more to it.
Yeah, like there's a whole story, and like I was watching a movie with one of my friends, and I think that was the first movie that they actually stayed awake for the whole movie that we watched together. Like they always fall asleep.
Oh shit, you still awake, huh?
I know. Like I was like,
what you think?
Like we actually, but during the movie, it was like he was still fidgeting or on his phone and stuff, and I was just like, wow, like are there people who still who can just sit and like watch a movie? Just give your full attention to like one thing and actually follow like the characters and the story and like.
I think theater is important, because that's our first form of books. That's the first form of storytelling. Is people. I guess it's another form of storytelling. First form of storytelling is listening to your parents tell you something.
Right.
And then there's that's like just a communal form of storytelling, Everybody's sitting here and engaging and going through this story and these lifelines of characters and stuff. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm the best reader on the planet, I need to definitely read more, and when I do read, it takes me months to finish a book. But I'm also an avid supporter and abuser of the audiobooks. Like those are my shit. I have quite a few audiobooks that I go through at a time. But any way you can get knowledge, if you can get knowledge in any way, just make sure you're doing it. You have to do it. And
part of me, I'm like, how much information are people actually taking in, because when it seems like, I read this article or whatever, but then you ask them, like, okay, well, what did you learn about it? They're like, well,
it was about this.
They just repeat the headline, basically. And so it's kind of just like, well, are you really absorbing the knowledge, or are we moving into this artificial intelligence age where anyone can just say whatever, and
fake news.
Yeah, like you can just say whatever, and now it's a fact.
Oh, that's real. Yeah. Well, and then it's like, okay, you read this article, but then what do the other people say, right?
Right.
What's the whole story? When you read something in news, it's only a fraction of perspective. You know?
It definitely depends, like what source you got it from, whose point of view it's from.
Right.
So. Yeah, I definitely want to
read the shit you don't want to read about, you know. When it's an issue, immerse yourself in all sides of the story.
Definitely. So I have another question about violence. And do we need that? Do we need violence?
No, especially not to the degree that we have it. I'm not surprised that it hasn't dropped off, but I do believe it will drop off soon. And it's because it's this idea is of being in survival mode this whole time, right? And if we are truly moving, and I believe we are because I see it and I'm practicing, if we're moving into a state where love is the resonant, is the source resonant, you know, that everything else is vibrating off of, then violence plays a very, very, it becomes more and more scarce, you know. It wouldn't exist as much because everybody's in a state where they're like, okay, well, you know, they're empathetic, you know, they recognize that I don't have to harm you in order to get what I want, you know. We can reach a level of compromise, and you could even still be in control of entirely without violence, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where like systems of not systems of control, but I mean, that's where community comes from. Community in that part and sharing of love, you know. If you're sharing and giving so much that you don't know that you're doing it, then you could really just get whatever you want, right? If we all recognize that we're a unified being, right, then the only thing that's preventing you from having maybe this microphone in this studio would be me speaking to the person who uses this microphone all the time, which is Rich. And shout out to Rich and Ghost House Studios. I might need some of your microphones, but like, yeah, I mean, once you start creating this community and these societies that are like that, then it's like you can really do whatever, right? Right.
Yeah.
I think so. And yeah, violence is so old. That's a scare tactic. That's what you do when you're afraid.
And you don't know how to communicate.
Exactly. And I mean, it's like if survival, being in that survival mode can help, but you don't need to harm anybody to resolve an issue. Nobody needs to get hurt.
Yeah, I personally agree with that. And I mean, to me, it doesn't sound silly. Like, to some people, it sounds silly, like, to not have guns anymore or to not fight. But I'm like, I wish, honestly, that we could bring dance battling back.
Yo,
or at least sweet. Even like martial arts. I feel like that's
everybody should know capoeira.
Yeah,
and if you got an issue, you settle it doing some capoeira.
Because it shows, like, it takes, to me, like, anyone can shoot a person, even, you know, babies can shoot
seen
people.
Thousands of stories like that.
Right. So it's like, it doesn't really mean you're more powerful or anything about you. Honestly, it seems more like cowardly to shoot
I was
people.
afraid and I got good aim.
Yeah, or maybe you just shot it and like, you actually... But it's just like, you know, it's just such a mindless act, whereas like actually having to, one, learn a skill, like whether that's, you know, dance or martial arts, like it takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of passion, takes a lot of understanding and like just so many different types of skills. And to actually be able to like apply those, I don't know, I think it just shows like respect. And like if you win or lose in your dance battle or martial arts battle, there's a sense of respect of like, you know, the other person lost because for obvious reasons, like for very obvious reasons, they were
more disciplined than you.
Yeah, like the person
I've been practicing more.
Yeah, like exactly. And it's kind of like you have to respect that, like this person worked hard on this art to like, you know, defend themselves, and you gotta respect them. And you walk away, you bump hands.
Right.
All right, cool. Like
right. And then it doesn't even get to the point where it's even like, it's even fighting. It's just like resolving maybe a mediocre or maybe a serious conflict. I don't know, because then it would just be, practicing an art form or a principle, which would be the art of defending yourself,
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a society where violence isn't really occurring, now you just know all these cool moves,
yeah.
right? Like, ain't nobody really even out here to hurt you, so now you just know how to do all this stuff. But I think that's like a great, I think that would be great. And even in dance battling, like, I would love to be a better dancer. So
that's crazy. Like, that actually was a thing. Like, people actually dance battled to solve. They're like, hey, meet me outside. We gonna battle.
Right.
And then they like literally bring a boombox out, and they're like have their game faces on. Like, they're serious about it. Like, that was a thing that actually happened, and now it's just like
Native Americans used to play lacrosse.
Yeah, like dude,
we play a sport. Right. Everybody comes out and is like, all right, yeah, let's check it out.
Right. Like, I feel like that is such more respectable, and I would much rather prefer that than guns. Like,
I think guns have expired their time here.
Yeah, I would hope so. But then it's like, there's bombs.
yeah.
But, baby steps, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. The last, really, because we kind of talked about quite a bit of our topics, but the last thing, because we were talking about unity, which it seems like, a lot of conversations I've been having lately and you might be having lately kind of end up tying back into unity, I guess, depending who you're having a conversation with. Right. But
well, if you're talking to me, I don't really know if you ever get the pleasure to, or if I get the pleasure to speak with you. But if you speak to me, we're gonna talk about some deep stuff. I'm not a person to make conversations light,
Yeah, and I'm cool with that. I feel like there's anything too taboo in life.
Right.
We're all here.
Just warning y'all for this, out there in the world, if you run into me, man, get ready for some serious conversation. Don't think you could just talk to me about Game of Thrones, but then even if we talk about Game of Thrones, it gets deep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think life is about, trying to connect it to a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we had briefly, when we were outside, we were talking about gender and just how, like, I've been noticing that there have been a lot more like gay, lesbian, transgender, all the different like labels and identities of sexuality becoming more apparent and also more celebrated, it seems to me. And I just think that's interesting that it's happening kind of in this time where people are also uniting too. I don't believe in consequences.
Right.
Or
coincidences. Yeah, I'll never get in trouble.
So I think that's interesting to see that people are experiencing these things, but also for my perspective, I think it's more of a unifying of energies rather than sexuality, but because our culture it loves to label things and make
so much and compartmentalize everything.
Yeah, but I think because every person has testosterone, estrogen, these energies, male, female, or yin and yang.
However you want to look at the duality, you're still a part of a whole. You had two hemispheres in your brain, right and left, but it's still one brain.
Right.
And I think it's beautiful, sexuality is fluid, and there's a beautiful thing about polarity or having two different sides is that there's a spectrum in between it, and people are more, and we're talking more about what's in of these spectrums, and I feel like we're doing that because we still have this idea of compartmentalizing, we still try to label, and I think that's helpful because, it gives those people a voice, and it allows people to connect and rally behind it. But then, it's going to get to the point where we have so many different groups that we're going to lose we won't lose sight of humanity. But I feel like we're going to get to the point where there's so many labels and we're just going to be like, all right, fuck it, you're all human. Right. It's going to get to the point where we can't break it up anymore. It's like you're really trying to like micro create subcategories and to not undermine the LGBTQ community at all right now. Shout out to them because like they're making serious change and movement and doing what the fuck they need to be doing as human beings, creating these topics of discussion for letting us all know that it's not just a binary, you know, that there isn't one or the other, that there are two sides and everything in between it. But I mean, it's all for a larger conversation that is like, can we just be human first?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And
just be human. Let everyone live their own life.
Do whatever the fuck you want to, you know.
Sometimes you might be attracted to this type of person. Sometimes you might be attracted to that type of person. Sometimes you might be attracted to a tree.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, love. The more love, the better.
Yeah. You can never have too much love.
Can you?
Oh, well. That's for another podcast.
Yeah, well, that's the question. I want to know. But
yeah, we were getting the signal from everybody, so let's say our goodbyes. We'll say shout out to Rich again in Ghost House Studios. Shout out to Samson for running everything, being the boss dog that he is, and good to be on the show, Ryan.
Thank you.
I'm glad I could be here.
And this is our last episode for the season.
Episode 21.
So very thankful to have you as the guest in good times.
As always.
So.
Cool.
Thank you, Denver. Thank you to the whole cast.
We are Denver.
And, yeah.
Adios. Hey.